Hello, it's Can We Talk? My name is Theresa Skorseth. This is Robin Hensel. We're coming to you from April 26, 2016. And we've got a plate full of stuff to talk about today. We're going to be talking about some local issues and some national issues, no doubt, and some spiritual issues. We've got losing our stuff here. So Robin, what did you want to talk about today? I know you've got...
Well, of importance is that the Minnesota Supreme Court has accepted my free speech case and on my disorderly conduct charge.
Wonderful.
And they'll be hearing from my attorney and I sometime. We have to, within 30 days of the time we got notice of the that they were going to accept my case, file some kind of a brief or petition to give to them within 30 days of that date. So we're going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks, and
let's bring the folks up to date a little bit. This started with your, well, it started long ago in many different ways, but it started with the day that you were detained for disorderly conduct in a council meeting.
right,
And that was June
7th, 2013.
Okay.
My attorney advised me to do some kind of neat things along the way, and one of the best pieces of advice he gave me was to write a timeline for all the different things that were going on. So I have a sister city timeline, I have a city timeline for citizen appeals, resolutions, presentations, proclamation, mission statement, and petition. That's this one that we're going to be talking about today. And I have them on a number of issues that I've been tracking along the way. So I found that real useful and brought it along, and we're going to start kind of at the beginning. And I stopped writing this timeline. There's been more since then, but the last I updated this was in September of 2014. But this covers everything pretty much that was important between February 2012 and up to the fall of 2014. So as we go, and you want to talk about some things, just stop me and we'll discuss it a little further.
Okay.
2/6 of 12, that's February 6th of 12. To back this up, January 17th is when I've called the first action. January 17th, 2012, I called the first action at Bank Square on behalf of Martin Luther King Day. And it was at that meeting, action, that I noticed that this We Support the Troops banner was still hanging in downtown Little Falls. And I figured I better do some research and find out if that was indeed erected legally or not, and come to find out that it was erected illegally, maintained illegally, and paid for by the city for more than 10 years. And that's the basis of my lawsuit, because I was treated differently than they were not adhering to the very law that they had enacted
Against you.
against me and everybody else. They expected everybody else to obey the ordinance that they had no intention of ever following.
Right.
And of course, my signs in 2011, fall of 2011, started with one little sign that was backing the Occupy movement. And then from there, I didn't have any kind of a platform or even a blog at that point, didn't know how to operate a computer, didn't have a smartphone, all of that stuff. So I started putting out little signs, signs of election signs in my front yard, 1, 2, 3 different ones per week, and it eventually grew to, I had about 35 signs, I think, at the top of the mountain, so to speak,
So you started
in my front yard.
blogging physically in the landscape.
Well, signs are a way to identify your own character with what you believe in, and on your own cartilage. One would think in America you'd be able to do that.
One more thing.
But so that's what led up to this. And now we're at February 6th of 2012. And of course, the minute I questioned that We Support the Troops banner, I faced threats and hostility. So I'm just going to let what I wrote down speak for itself. I don't attend this work session or meeting as I knew there would be hostile people there. Threats had already been made on the Chicks on the Right website, as well as the Blaze website. And these were terroristic death threats, folks. At this council meeting, a group of about 12 hostile individuals present a petition during the citizen appeal time suggesting that my asking for the We Support Troops banner be taken down was disgusting. So,
Disgusting.
and a lot of these guys were current or former military, and I guess they don't believe in the Constitution, that the Constitution applies to everybody, just some.
Yeah.
And then I have a little note here that I didn't go because my children, I have 4 kids, and they really,
Beg you not to.
they begged me not to go. And, you know, this is in the inception, the beginning of everything, and I was concerned for their safety as well, so I didn't go. I regretted that later. I should have been there, should have gone, but I didn't have a camera then or anything. And so then the next meeting was the 20th of February. I began attending all work session meetings and council meetings. And somewhere between there and the next couple of months, I not only started going to the work session city council, gradually I began going to planning meetings, economic development meetings, historic preservation committee meetings, HRA meetings, environmental and energy meetings, airport meetings, just about every city meeting that a person could go to in this town. I attended most of them within about a 3-year period. I have not gone to some of those meetings now just because I'm doing more of my artwork and other things with my family, and I'm busy with a lot of other activities, including this Unite Cloud and trying to counter the Islamophobic hate spewing that's going on in this area. And I have many other things that I'm involved in too. So as soon as I started to attend those other meetings, immediately the public comment section was removed at every one of those meetings. So no longer could any constituent like myself go and share their good ideas, share their comments, or express their concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no other way to look at it that they took those off because they didn't want to hear what I had to say, my countering, my dissenting viewpoint. And it was not negative, at least not all of the time. Most of the time, if I was speaking at those meetings, I was reminding them that they had to obey the laws fairly, that they couldn't do selective enforcement, they had to do uniform enforcement, and so on and so forth. And I can honestly say, Theresa, and correct me if I'm wrong, that everything that you and I ever gave a public comment on, a citizen petition, an appeal, or whatever, when we have spoken up and out about stuff, it's all been for the community good. There hasn't been one negative thing. And if anybody wants to counter that and say that they think that some of the things that we have put forth for ideas, I am personally happy to listen to what you have to say about that. And I would just be curious as to why you would feel that it would be wrong to advocate for a tree city or a homeless bill of rights.
Mm-hmm. Or for better streets, or
Yeah. And we're gonna, a lot of that is in here, you know, so we're gonna share with the public a lot of that because I've taken good notes. Spring of 2012, citizen complaints removed from the work sessions. So no longer did any citizen, especially myself and Theresa, have a chance to comment and make a complaint. They took them off. April 28th through May 5th, 2007, Kathy Van Risingham proclaims this week as Polish Constitution Week in the city of Little Falls. That's noteworthy, right?
well,
How do you suppose it's going to go when I ask for something coming up to celebrate the Muslims in our community? How well do you suppose Greg Silk is going to receive that? How likely do you think it is he's going to be willing to proclaim that, folks? Got to have a little humor along the way.
yes.
Wednesday, September 16th, 2009, Kathy V proclaims American Legion Day in the city of Little Falls.
Kathy was the mayor at that
Kathy
time.
was the former mayor, that's right, Kathy Van Risingham. October 4th, 2010, Kathy Van Risingham proclaims the week of October 25th, 2010 as Manufacturers Week. August or September 2011, citizens' petitions and appeals moved to the end of the meeting in an attempt, now that was before I came into the picture, before I ever attended a meeting at City Hall. September or August of 2011, the citizen petitions and appeals were moved to the end of the meeting in an attempt to discourage attendees, mostly Dewey Radke Home supporters,
The other friends of Dewey
to save it from the demolition. to wait until the end in order to make their plea heard.
Yeah,
Because
it
they
is.
figured if they had them wait till the end of the meeting, they would go away and wouldn't be heard.
Well, yeah, because those meetings, a lot, unless you're pretty familiar with what the topics of conversation are, they can be pretty boring.
Right. Kathy V proclaims December 2012 as Financial Literacy Month in Little Falls, Morrison County Record article. January 7th, 2013, My Citizen Appeal. I request the council answer my question, does the City of Little Falls Police Department have a drone policy? And that was because of citizen right to privacy, as well as, who wants drones over their skies?
Oh, yeah.
Who wants a drone flying around in their neighborhood? Not likely too many folks. Some folks do.
Unless they're delivering pizza.
Not to surveil them. They want to fly them for fun. I know a lot of people that want to fly them for fun, but not to be surveilled,
Yeah, nobody
especially
wants
when
to be
you're
spied on.
nude bathing in the backyard or something, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
March
I do that
18th,
all the time.
2013, My Citizen Appeal. I request a painting mural on my south side of my garage later this spring. I'm a professional wildlife artist. A lot of people don't know that. The property next to mine was most recently used for commercial purposes. It housed the Mortensen Construction Company office for over 2 years during the hospital expansion. Since then, it sits vacant and is owned by a commercial entity, the hospital. And of course, I was denied to have a mural, but they can have murals in other areas of town. January 22nd, 2013, Lauren Boyum, who is my ward representative, supposed to be anyway, Ward 1, which I'm going to run this, I'll give my announcement right here early. I intend to run for City Council Ward 1 position again this fall. And in 2018, if my health holds up and I'm still raring to go like I am today, even if I'm really tired, I'm going to run for mayor again and challenge Greg Zilka or whoever else wants to throw their hat in the ring. So early announcement there. Dan Vogt said, this is January 22nd, 2013. Lauren Boyum says city council meetings are not a public forum or town hall. Dan Vogt says council doesn't have to allow public to speak at all, because he did some research in some different areas. Frank Goshik discussed guideline policies for the appeals portion of the regular city council agenda, including items that the city council has the authority to address. City Administrator Vogt reviewed a policy in place in the city of Egan regarding proclamations, resolutions that uses wording related to local government service delivery, which was requested to be placed on a future agenda. But if I recollect correctly, Egan was not a home rule charter city, it was the other type city, and there were some issues with that, so at one point I gave a citizen appeal about that too. February 4th, 2013, Citizen Appeals Proclamations and Resolutions Policy reviewed by City Administrator Dan Vogt. Discussions to continue at the February 19th, 2013 council meeting. February 19th, 2013, Citizen Appeal, Kathy Van Risingham, our mayor, stated, this is what I said during my Citizen Appeal. Kathy Van Risingham, our mayor, stated on 1/29/13 at the Youth Task Force meeting, which I of course recorded, that Little Falls was poor in spirit, poor in thought, and poor in actions. I thought that was notable, that our mayor was speaking like that about our quaint little river town.
The town that I forgot.
Right. February 9th, the little town that wouldn't. February 19, I want to write a children's book. That's why I mentioned that.
Okay.
And that's what I'm going to title it, The Little Town That Wouldn't. February 19th, 2013. Council instructs staff to move the citizen appeals part of council meetings to the work session. Staff was directed to draft a policy on resolutions. I state during citizens appeal time that the proposed change to citizens appeal is directed at me, because of course there was.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And there's no way that anybody could disavow anything of what I'm saying if they had been there.
Yeah.
But the problem in this city, as well as in all little cities and county meetings, is nobody shows up.
Nobody comes.
Nobody cares.
Except you.
So they get by
Yeah.
with whatever they want to,
Pretty much.
including some misuse of public funds and a number of times when they were violating their own laws. They did not have their data access procedure. They didn't even have one. when I came into the picture. They have developed and done a lot of things just because I've been there and said, hey, you better take care of this.
Exactly.
You're not following what you should be.
Open meeting laws is a very good example of that.
Yeah.
There were lots of violations of the open meeting laws, which, include, you can't discuss, if you're a council person, you can't discuss city business outside of chambers, outside of the meeting. And there would be people talking about it before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting, then going out for coffee and dissecting it again. And Robin just pointed out, you can't do that. These are open meetings, which means the public has the right to hear every single thing you have to say about this.
Now, and I don't know how long this stuff's been going on. I only came here in '94, and I came here to grow my business and to finish raising my family. My kids at the time were 5 and 6, and I had some teenagers too, my biological kids. So I didn't come here to rebel rouse or any of that, and I have never been an activist in my life, folks. Before I came to this city, I wrote probably 3 different letters to the editor about things that troubled me, like steel jaw traps for trapping, which I feel are inhumane, outlawed in Europe, most of Europe, and we continue in the United States to have that archaic method. I've gotten involved with animal humane rights. I wrote some articles about that. I worked undercover with the Humane Society in the county I used to live in, helped shut down illegal, inhumane way of euthanasia and the impoundment facility.
But you weren't an activist.
I wasn't an activist, no. And not even when I was younger, teenager. I was busy coming out of floral school in Brainerd. I was busy making a living, and during the Vietnam War, I was scrambling to make a living, and I wasn't an activist at all. Never been a hippie either. But since people portray me that way, sometimes I dress up because I like to be, sort of comedic, because a person has to have fun. A lot of this activism hasn't been so fun with all the threats I've experienced and been called a traitor and,
been told that they're going to shoot you in the head.
Dozen different things. Well, why I pulled a Gordian shooter worked last time.
Yeah,
I mean, how much more of a threat can you make?
I know, and that is, it's not only a threat to you, but it's an insult to Gordy's.
Gordon Wheeler,
Wheeler's
that's right.
family.
That's right. And it is sort of when Darwin J. Allard said that, he was basically insinuating that the cops executed on purpose Gordon J. Wheeler,
set him up, and
because they didn't like him or they didn't like what he was doing or whatever.
they were tired of his.
Right. Okay, so getting back to this. March 4th, 2013, Citizen Appeals at Work Session. Proposed resolution change is tabled until next meeting. I petition that the city make August 27th a citywide holiday each year in honor of the Kellogg-Briand Peace Pact that outlawed war and was signed on August 27th, 1928 in Paris, France. Theresa petitions that the work sessions be moved to the chamber, the larger room where the council meetings are, instead of the little conference room, as the seating is inadequate. March 18th, 2013, Lauren Boyum suggests at the work session that the city develop a mission statement. Gushik makes his no grandstanding by certain individuals to get their agenda across comment. Resolution's proposal is tabled until the next council meeting as the mayor is absent. Theresa Skorseth presents petition to begin the transition to a more inclusive definition of patriotism. I petition the city to use standard statistical data and analysis in the development of city policies and ordinances, because when they wrote this, part of the lawsuit, part of their defense of their sign ordinance stated that they needed a sign ordinance because it created signs created a traffic hazard. Too many signs in a residential area created a traffic hazard.
Which was later.
And that they could devalue property, but they had no evidence to back it up. No statistical data or analysis was ever done to back up what they had to say. So of course we would have used that against them had we gone on in a furtherance of the lawsuit. We had Joan Claybrook, former head of the National Traffic Safety Department, for years, and she said in 30 years, she had never known of an incident where a sign had created a traffic accident. Didn't exist. But here, they use that to...
The billboards all along the highways,
right.
They
Even
never seem
now,
to cause a problem.
Flashing ones of bright neon, they're billboard sites. They're big as this whole wall here. And they're flashing.
Videos going on.
If they're talking about, How about the theaters? Drive-in theaters that were positioned along the highways, showing nudie flicks or semi-nudie flicks. If talk about a traffic distraction,
Yeah.
if people don't like a sign, they can look away. They don't have to look at that distraction. Our traffic laws mandate that you pay attention to the wheel, no matter if somebody's running naked next to the highway.
Yeah. Yes, that would be the user's responsibility, not the government's.
Right. Okay, March 19th, 2013, Robin hand delivers Peace and Diversity Week proclamation to Kathy Van Risingham at City Hall. April 1st, and that was my reason. I saw all this proclamation of all these different things, and what better thing to proclaim than peace in an area where we're 7 miles from Camp Ripley, and if we're not promoting peace, who's going to do it? And why wouldn't any decent person who's patriotic and has any inkling of decency want to promote peace to keep our soldiers out of harm's way, if nothing else?
Exactly.
So that's why I asked her to proclaim that. April 1st, 2013, proposed policy number 76, resolutions adopted by council. Bernard Ottman, is allowed to speak his citizen appeal during the petition's only time. Theresa Skorseth petitions for the development of a Save Our Homes program to assist those homeowners whose homes are in danger of foreclosure. I present a petition to begin an awareness campaign highlighting the dangers, capabilities of drones over Little Falls airspace, privacy and safety. April 2nd, 2013, Robin hand delivers the Emancipation Proclamation to Kathy V at City Hall. That was an Emancipation Proclamation that you had given a petition about, and it was to do with more freedom for migrants, wasn't it, or something like that? I have a copy of it.
Good. I'm glad you do, because
Somewhere.
I couldn't tell you right now.
It was a good thing, folks. It uplifted those who couldn't speak for themselves.
Right.
April 15th, 2013, Robin attempts to read citizen appeal about helicopter fumes that poison my home every time a helicopter lands. And
This would be on the hospital lawn.
well, the hospital owns Gilbert's own property next to me, and that's the only buffer between my home and the helicopter landing pad. And I don't object to the hospital having a helicopter, but honestly, and it still goes on to this day, every time the helicopter lands, and I have to have my windows open in the summertime because I have upper respiratory problems and I don't use air conditioning because of that. And every time the hospital lands, that tail is generally pointed in the direction of my home, and it just happened about a week ago. I was standing out in the front yard recording this, and I almost passed out because the fumes were so bad. It's kerosene, and kerosene is toxic. It may have some other additives in it, but it's primarily kerosene, and it's very, very dangerous to inhale.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff comes into my windows that are on the south side of my home, and it lingers there for hours sometimes. I can't get it out. Even the backyard of my home, where I do a lot of my artwork and I hang out and I, entertain kids sometimes, and my pets and I are back there, we get poisoned by these fumes. And we have a local ordinance to protect against obnoxious or noxious fumes coming into a person's home. That nuisance ordinance also encapsulates dust and noise and things like that.
Particulates.
And so everybody else in town can be protected, but not me. So that was my reason for bringing up that. April 15th, 2013, Robin attempts to read citizen... I read that, sorry. Don Klinker disallows her to speak. Remember? I couldn't talk.
What was his excuse?
It was my citizen appeal. I don't remember. I have it recorded, but he said I couldn't speak. He shut me up. And of course, if I'd have kept on, I'd probably been arrested right then and there.
Yeah.
That was in April. That's only a few months now, leading up to when I was cited for disorderly conduct.
Right.
Theresa Skorseth reads petition about Central Minnesota Peace and Diversity Fair, requesting the last week of June each year be set aside to honor it. I hand-delivered Peace and Diversity Week declaration since the mayor refused to proclaim it. I walked right up to her and gave it to her, sitting at the dais. Theresa and Robin's letter to City Council requesting equal time to Colonel St. Sauver, Camp Ripley, 4/15/13, presentation on the agenda was denied by the council. Remember when we wanted to speak up, because if he was allowed to speak, and his isn't city-related business whatsoever,
No, it's all about the camp.
it's not related to city delivery of services at least. And so if he could speak out about the wonderful things they're doing out there, why wouldn't we be able to give a 30-minute presentation, or at least some kind of a comeback with the opposing point of view, which is
Or at least another point of view.
right.
We weren't even actually being oppositional, we just wanted equal time.
Right, and we should have been able to question the military things that are going on out there for a number of reasons. They're poisoning and toxicifying all the air in the Morrison County area, and probably sickening all of us.
And there are water issues as well.
Right, big time water issues coming up, and as we currently speak right now, January 1st of 2016, Camp Ripley has been in violation of the very laws that are supposed to protect our health and welfare. They are in violation for not getting 2 mandatory demolition permits for out at camp. And Commissioner Kevin Maurer told me that one of those permits involves toxic chemicals and contaminants. Well, so why after 12 years of complying with that county law that's mandated, they can't operate a demolition permit without that? It's a county ordinance. Why would they go along with it for 12 years and not now? Well, I think I know why. If ever there was going to be another Superfund site anywhere in the upper Midwest, what better place than Camp Ripley for that to be at?
Oh my gosh.
The military is the world's greatest polluter. Everything they do out there, folks, has chemical contaminants in it. I don't care what they're doing with their Jeeps and their Humvees and their tanks and their missiles and their drones and everything, even the fake smoke that they put out for their tactical arms training and all that, that's all got contaminants in, folks, like what's in fireworks. And fireworks are toxic as well. The ingredients to make them go poof, that's all. It's poison.
It doesn't just go away, it doesn't drift into the stratosphere and disappear.
And we're not talking about small stuff. We're talking about bombs that create openings, crevasses in the earth. If you doubt me, go on Google Earth and look at Camp Ripley at their bombing ranges. You can't miss them. They're kind of tan in color, and they show great big crevasses in the earth where they've cracked and opened up. Where do you suppose those contaminants are going, folks? If not down into the water and into the dirt, the rest of it's spewed out into the air, and people in this area don't think they're going to be sick from this crap? I mean, seriously. Oh, you got off on that.
We did. It's kind of a sore spot.
So, you know, and if people want to be upset about something in this area, why not be upset about that?
Yeah,
Something that's affecting everybody's lives every single day.
every day, and their children and grandchildren. It's
Yeah.
not something that goes away. I mean, even if the Camp Ripley went away somehow, all the contaminants that have been placed in the water and the air out there, and the dirt and the earth, that doesn't just disappear.
It takes years, if not decades, to clean up a Superfund site.
Right.
And, you know, I have no proof that they will become a Superfund site, but it's really very suspicious that they are trying to avoid and be willing to violate the county ordinance on their demolition permits. That should tell folks a lot right there.
It should.
Okay, so now I'll start at the top here. April 20th, 2013, Morrison County Record, Kathy V. proclaims Poppy Day in the city of Little Falls, and all Poppy Day.
Oh, Poppy Day.
And Greg Zilka just did too. Which involves, and which means that our city mayor is advocating for one particular group to go around and collect money.
Yeah.
So now, since they have done that, technically, if they would deny another group that wants to fundraise and ask for a proclamation to have their little, whatever it is, little thing sold to the business people and to the constituents of this area, if they refused, that could get them in some serious legal trouble.
Yeah, if people, pressed the issue.
Right.
It could.
But again, that backs the war machine.
Yeah.
And only the war machine. That seems to be the only thing that matters in this area. And the only thing I can think of is that most people in this area are living off that military cash cow teat in some way or another. They're getting money from Camp Ripley, or have gotten money. They're getting a retirement check, some form or another, they're getting a kickback monetarily. Okay, so May 20th, 2013, council decides against the advice of Dan Vogt. Now, they hired a city administrator to give them good advice. But here and a number of other times, they didn't listen to Dan's advice.
Yeah.
To put the citizen appeals back on the council agenda. Instead of, they moved it to the work session.
Right.
Which I might remind the viewers, the reason they did that is because work sessions are not filmed and taped by public access TV. Our city government won't allow the current manager to do that. That's why I film work sessions. They want to hide in the shadows, in the dark.
They want to have a
business.
place they want to be able to conduct the parts of their business that are maybe a little harder to explain.
Aren't so pretty.
Yeah, and they want
And,
to do that in private.
and it's not fully transparent. It's not the right way to go.
The public is allowed at these meetings.
Right. They're open meetings, but they
They're
don't want
open
them filmed.
meetings.
It's really odd, isn't it?
It is. It
Well,
always seems
no,
to
it's
be.
not odd. Because a work session is the only place I can speak. Except at a public hearing.
Right.
So it's all about shutting me up. It's
Yeah.
all about shutting me out.
Exactly.
Anybody thinks that's not true, they're kidding themselves. Okay, so they go against his advice to put the citizen appeals back on the council agenda to combine petitions and citizen appeals and rename public forum and put them at the work session only. I read petition asking council to develop new bylaws and new policies for the sister city committee based on the state auditor's requirement that all public funds must be used for public purpose. Theresa Skorseth presented the petition to ban body gripping traps within the city limits for pet and child safety, which of course they refused to do. Because a lot of pets have gotten trapped in these traps, and it doesn't give them a chance. It just snaps on their jaw or their neck or some part of their head and kills them instantly. And a lot of pets have gotten trapped in there.
Or even if it doesn't kill them instantly, then people are going, gee, why didn't, Fido come home? And days later they find that he's
Right.
died of exposure and starvation and thirst.
Right. May 26, 2013, Morrison County Record states, the Dan Vogt says that every effort will be made to citizens to get on the city council agenda in the future. May 28, 2013, Dan Vogt's initials Theresa Skorseth's letter to request to be on the council agenda to make a brief plea that the sister city can be defunded and the $3,000 annually be diverted to one or all of the following: Habitat for Humanity of Morrison County Boys and Girls Club, Hands of Hope Resource Center, or the Morrison County Food Shelf. These four institutions provide tangible help to the poor of Morrison County. Sister City provides nothing but entertainment for the rich. I can make this point in 5 minutes as part of what you said. Okay, now that was May 2013. In June is when all the real excitement started to happen.
Yeah.
May 28th, the same day that you asked to be on the agenda there, Dan Vogt initials my request letter to put this important information suggestion, whereas the bicycles are coming through the Little Falls on various bicycle trails, and there is a proposed splash pad skate park recreational complex on the north side of town, we asked, this was a petition now, we asked that the city council designate Mill Park and La Berger as primitive overnight camping sites in a community effort to encourage the bicyclists and tourists to stay close to our historic downtown district, shop our local stores, and explore our many historic sites. Little Falls needs the economic boost, and it would be a great amenity to offer to those who travel throughout our quaint little river town. Please put this on the council agenda, not the work session, for council consideration. So I'm asking to be on that council agenda, just like Dan Vogt publicly stated in the Morrison County Record a few weeks before that he'd make every effort to get that on the agenda, or anybody on the agenda. It can be on the work session as well for discussion, but I'm asking for the council to discuss this suggestion I'm making during the regular televised council meeting, so that the public can be aware of what I'm suggesting. I also ask to comment during the council meeting while they are discussing this. Because of course they were talking about it, I wanted to inject because it was my idea.
Right.
So that was my idea, to make La Berger and Mill Park primitive campsites for overnight camping.
Primitive meaning, no electricity, no.
You might think it's somebody else in this town made that suggestion, but it was mine. And it was a good one. I'm not boasting. I just, I could see if we were to get a bike trail, why weren't we, and even without that,
Yeah.
why weren't we encouraging people to stay in our downtown area, close to our bars and our restaurants and our other stuff here? Shop our town, eat in our town, spend your money here.
Right.
And this was also, I suggested this because it had been illegal to camp,
camp there
it
at all.
still is, to
Yeah.
camp in city parks.
Right.
But the city doesn't follow their own law.
No.
They have
It
allowed
depends on who you
countless
are.
groups to break that law and stay overnight in tents in La Bourget Park. So I have encouraged and asked the city a number of times to allow camping in the parks in town.
Make it legal.
Make it legal. You can't say it's good for one group, but you gotta shut out everybody else. That's
Right.
not right to do that.
Right.
Okay, so now we're at 6/3 of 2013 when I wore my colorful outfit with my hat and my signs on top in protest of the fact that petitions were removed from council meetings prior to tonight's meeting, and moved to the work session only, so they weren't recorded and put on public access TV. That's why I wore my hat. That's why I put the signs by the dais. That's why I put the sign in front of me that said free speech restricted here. That's why, folks. Citizen appeals had been moved from recorded council meetings to the work session, so there was no way for the public to know the ideas I was presenting to the council. Clinker asked me to move my signs into the hallway instead of the chamber. Clinker invites a group of 7 people to sit around the work session table because George Van Visingham, the former mayor's husband, said they couldn't see due to my hat with the signs on. However, there were approximately 45 other chairs available in the people gallery for them to sit in if they couldn't see. Why didn't council move the petitions after that first group of 12 hostile people stating that the Support the Troops banner that was illegally erected and maintained by the city of Little Falls for more than a decade came and said that my asking them to take down an illegal sign was disgusting? Why didn't the council move the petitions then? If they didn't want people, if I've often wondered why they didn't move them then.
Well, you know why.
Yeah.
They were saying things that the council agreed with.
That's exactly
It was
right.
only when people said things that the
That is
council didn't agree
exactly
with
right.
that they wanted them out.
That's exactly right. Kathy Van Risingham moved to adjourn that meeting after only 3 minutes. All right, now we're at the day that I got a ticket. And I wasn't technically, supposedly arrested. However, I gotta tell you folks, I was escorted out by the chief, and I didn't resist. Why would I resist?
Yeah.
I was shocked they were arresting me. I thought if I stood my ground, they'd let me continue to sit there, because it didn't make any sense to give me a ticket for something that they had just invited other people to do
Yeah,
4
there's
days
no reason
prior.
to think it was illegal.
Right. So I was escorted out. I had Captain Casillas on one side. These are 2 armed police officers now. And Chief Greg Shermer's on the other side with their guns.
Yeah.
And they escort me into a locked room. And as my observer, Lad Fisk tries to enter so that he can film for my protection's sake, because I had asked him to do that. When he tries to come in, they push against his chest and say, "Stop. If you don't stop, you're going to be arrested too." And they did Chief Shermer's did use the word arrested. They held me against my will in a locked room for 30 minutes. Not only did they lock that room, they locked down City Hall. Because when Lad couldn't see what was happening to me, he went outside to the window, which is now the zoning administrator's little office there, right across from the front desk at City Hall. He wanted to see what was going on from the window, so he was taking pictures and looking inside that window because it was the only way he could help monitor that I was safe. He was worried for me.
Yeah.
Honestly worried I'd have threats and everything else. So I was held for 30 minutes. If that isn't an arrest, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
The only thing they didn't do was handcuff
Handcuff
me.
you, yeah.
Right. They didn't take me to
Take
jail.
your fingerprints.
Right. Okay. Council meeting called due to the abrupt meeting on 6/13/14. This is the meeting of 6/7/13 now, June 7th. because they needed to pay the bills and can't unless they hold this quickie meeting. No way for, and there was something else that I'm going to talk about in a minute. No way for the public to speak at this meeting either, because there was no public comment time at this meeting. And I think that's the only meeting that ever happened at, where they didn't have a, at all. Not, there was no work session, see? Because they had moved them to the work session so the public couldn't hear me anymore. But they never had a meeting where they didn't have a public comment time, that was without a work session. No way for the public to speak at this meeting. So because of that, because I wasn't allowed to speak, I wore my vintage outfit with my apron, my vintage apron, and my American flag handkerchief tied on my head, and carried my Peace is Always Beautiful flag and a tiny American flag in hand, and I sat close to the dais. And then I compromised, and I sit where, approximately where George Van Risingham had sat, and others that were close that had moved in front of us at the meeting prior. When they said they couldn't see because of my head on June 7th, or June 3rd, 2015 meeting, I refused to move from this area and state that if it's good enough for others to sit here, it's good enough for me. And then the council asked the chief to remove me from that area, and then I was escorted out, okay? At that meeting on June 7th, they also needed to do something that they didn't do that they should have done so they didn't violate their lone sign law again. At Monday night on June 3rd, when Kathy called that abrupt meeting to a close after 3 minutes, they did not pass the necessary sign permit for the banners, 2 banners that were on city property. They didn't pass them, but they erected them before they passed it on June 7th. The zoo had a big affair that year, and I witnessed and saw the big zoo banner erected on Wednesday of that week. They should have passed it on Monday, but didn't. So when they erected it on Wednesday in front of the Little Falls Zoo, it was illegal. I don't know about the one at the golf course. My guess is that one, I didn't go out there, but my guess is that one was also erected illegally on Wednesday, and it was erected illegally because they had a legal responsibility to pass it on June 3rd before they erected it on the 5th. Okay. When they passed those sign banners to be erected was on the 7th, after they had already erected them, at least the one. And I can tell you which banner it was. It was a great big long black thing, and it had the picture of the Black Panther with or some kind of a cat with golden eyes. Yeah, I'll never forget it.
I remember that.
Okay, so 7.1 of 13, my public forum comment. I question why the council president didn't allow Theresa Skorseth to speak during the June 17th, 2013 council meeting during the discussion of the sister city defunding request she had Chief Shermer's request. Chief Shermer's almost hauled Theresa out of the chamber because you stood up and insisted on being able to speak, because after all, you had been put on the agenda.
Put on the agenda.
That same agenda that Dan voted said he'd make it, make every attempt to get any citizen on the agenda. Okay, so Theresa goes through all the legal loopholes to do it, and the rigmarole to get on there.
Yeah.
And instead, the council, including Don Klinker and Kathy Van Risingham, never did allow Theresa to speak.
No, they told me that the issue had already been settled and there was no more need to discuss it.
Well, they invited Melissa Peterson,
Yeah.
the president of Sister City, to come up and speak over 12 and a half minutes. And she wasn't on the agenda.
She wasn't on the agenda. In fact, it wasn't, well, never mind, that doesn't make any difference.
Okay, and so, and I urge them once again, since this group could not demonstrate a tangible public purpose of city revenues, to once again consider defunding the group. Now I'm going to stop here and talk about something. How many minutes do we have left, Chris? 15. Okay, good, perfect. I want people in this area, if they're concerned about, there's been a lot of comments on the Morrison County website article about my my case being accepted by the Supreme Court. And there's a whole bunch of people got their panties in a bunch. saying that, things like, how can one woman, be costing a city so much money and whatnot? If you're upset about the money to do with any of this stuff, who you really need to get onto and contact is your city government and your elected officials.
Yeah.
Because they're not performing their jobs right. They're being paid money, and you're not getting your money's worth. You're getting jerked, folks.
Yeah.
No. I want to ask publicly the question, I want everybody to ask all their elected officials and call City Hall, 320-616-5500, and ask John Rademacher, the administrator, to find out why did the council, who made the decision at City Hall to remove the tables, the work session tables and chairs, on June 7th meeting? Never before had that ever happened.
Yeah.
Theresa and I have been there for the last 5.5 years at almost every stinking meeting this city has had in that building at all. They used to hold the work sessions in that little conference room, and Teresa's the one that made a request to move it. It was hot in that little room.
It was hot and crowded.
And it was packed.
Yeah.
And for all this time, none of those council people ever felt that we were a threat. They didn't like us being there. We were bothered to them, but they didn't feel we were a threat. So we move into that chamber area, and they set up the work session tables in a kind of first it was in a box, a square. Right, the first table was about 2 or 3 feet in front of the dais, and then it ran north-south, headed toward the people gallery, and then it went east, and then it went south again. So it was a complete box in the middle, and chairs all around it. Then at some point, because Theresa and I mentioned that she was having trouble hearing because some of the people were seated
with their backs to the audience.
Yeah, with their backs to the audience, and they weren't using any kind of microphones in there, so you couldn't hear them. The cameras couldn't even pick up their talk.
Right.
So they switched it to be like a V or a U kind of a shape, where now they're facing everybody in the people corral.
Right. At least nobody's got their backs to the people corral.
Right.
They may be facing only one another, but they're not.
And so they had these
anymore.
work session tables and chairs set up at every single meeting in that hall, all the way through June 3rd. Then after that June 3rd meeting, and somewhere I have a recording of this, because I record a lot of stuff, most everything. I said to Theresa after that meeting, and Mike Kretschy formerly of this television station was there, probably still recording as a matter of fact.
Probably.
I said to you, power of signs. Because I couldn't believe it. The signs in my weird outfit shut the meeting down. I was shocked.
I know.
And I said, that's interesting. Since others could move forward at this meeting, at the next meeting, so can we.
Right.
And I, of course, said that loud enough because I'm a fairly loud talker. So Mike Kretschy, who was standing from here to that wall from us, about 3 feet, heard every word of what we were saying. So he knew what we were going to do next time.
That you were planning on that.
And there's no doubt in my mind that either somebody from city staff or somebody, he alerted somebody. He's friends with some of the council people. And I have a lot of back channels, so I'm aware of what's going on in the city. A lot more than a lot of people realize. But the city was well aware of what we were going to do. And I think that is the only reason why they removed those chairs and tables, so that we couldn't do legally what we should have been allowed to do.
If you ever go to a work session, a council meeting, you'll see them. Everybody floods down to the common area, takes the tables and chairs and sweeps them out of the way before anybody.
Immediately, but they never did that until June 7th.
Right.
They were gone. So people should be asking the city legitimately this question: why did you move the chairs and the table?
Yeah.
Was it indeed so that you could give Robin a citation for sitting in an area that others had sat in just 4 days prior?
Yeah.
That's a question that needs to be asked.
Very good one, yeah.
So, 7/9/13, I send a letter to City Council and Dan vote to discuss the trees in our city during the regular council meeting. 7/19/13, I request to be on the agenda of council 8/5/13 to address tree city status of our quaint little river town. And somewhere in there I also alerted them to the fact that one of the big historic pine trees at Pine Grove Park was not protected, and people were backing, it's the one that was by the playground there, and people were backing into it,
Yeah.
and the poor tree was almost dead because people bashing into it. And I said, you got a parks board here, why isn't somebody putting a barrier around that to protect that tree?
Yeah.
So they got that fixed. They listened to me on that. And there's a few other things they listened to me on. The fact that the hospital park property next to me didn't even have a slope to get down on the sidewalk from there, in front of the hospital. They got that quickly corrected. But now I should mention this. The fence that's in my back alley that the hospital owns is a safety risk. It's tipping this way and that way, and you can just drive back there and look, folks.
Is that because of traffic, you think?
No, it's because they're not maintaining it.
Ah.
It's a blight issue. The neighbors
It doesn't look good.
on the other side of the fence, my neighbors in the backyard of me, have had to prop up their fence in two areas with 2x4s. 6 foot or 8 foot 2x4s to keep it from falling in their yard. And
that's
what's
the
gonna happen is the wind
hospital's
comes along and cars are gonna get, if that fence goes down, cars are gonna get damaged and the hospital's gonna get it fall. And people could get hurt.
Yes.
And of course I have photos of that.
Good.
I mean, I'm not out to get anybody, but people, if we have rules, everybody should have to follow them across the board, not just some folks. And our hospital has a lot of city money gone into it, millions of dollars. So it's a city-related issue. And those are economic development fund issues. Or funds, I should say. 8, 9, 13, proclamation policy suggested, agree to have city staff develop policy. So Kathy doesn't have to proclaim anything. Theresa and I write. This sounds like a joke book, really.
It really kind of does.
9:13, my agenda item, why promote diversity? 9:13, agenda revision. Greg Zilka on agenda work session and council agrees to have Dan vote, Mayor and President Klinker decide what's to be on the agenda instead of just Dan vote. They don't want Theresa or I to get on the agenda anymore. When Brian Crowder asked if this is the way it was in Brainerd while Dan was administrator there, Dan says no, but in Brainerd he never had anybody getting on the agenda every meeting either. An obvious reference to me.
Obvious, yeah. You were so powerful. You never realized how much power you had back then.
9/3/13 mission statement adopted. Boehm instigated. 9/3/13 Jerry Abraham resignation from Channel 612 CMAT TV accepted at council meeting. City going to develop new policies and contract for the public access television station in order to attempt to get reality players, our show, off the station. Jerry Abraham suggests he regrets having to resign due to recent circumstances. He states in the Morrison County Record that he would like to help the city to develop policies to cover some of the problems he's having right now. In other words, me. 9/16/13, my agenda item, identifying inadequate disability access in Little Falls city-owned buildings and sidewalks, which they never did.
No, never fixed it.
They don't want to be compliant
No. None of it's
to
gonna touch
ADA
that.
or anything else.
Yeah.
9/16/13, Greg Zilka makes suggestion that President Don Klinker and Kathy Van Risingham be part of the decision-making team to decide who gets on the agenda instead of just Dan Vogt or other city staff making the decision. We're going to go over just a little bit. Is that okay? Okay. And I just want to remind people, one of the most obvious, ridiculous areas in this city that they don't have ADA compliant is over by, to the west of where I live on 4th Street. There's a great big white building that's a complex with mostly seniors in it. It's got a green roof and it's white colored. I don't know what the name of that is, but it's
Is that
directly,
Harmony?
no, it's directly east of the hospital, a block over from the hospital.
Directly east of the hospital.
And right there at that intersection of 4th Street Southeast and 7th Avenue Southeast, where the daycare used to be, that's not there in business anymore, but there was a daycare there on that corner, right in front of their property, that old daycare. There's no slope to get down. In fact, you have to go, if you want to use the sidewalk, you have to go on the street about, I don't know, a little ways, maybe 20 feet or 30 feet, to go into a driveway to get up on the sidewalk there. Now, that's next to a senior housing. You know, if ever there was a need to have it disability compliant, would be there. I mentioned that years ago, still not done. Another outrage. I have been on them for 2.5 years to get the bathrooms at City Hall disability friendly. Somebody comes in a wheelchair and can't push a door open, there's not a push trigger thing on those bathrooms, and you can't get a wheelchair inside those bathroom
No, you
stalls.
can't. Even if you get the door open, you can't maneuver once you're in there.
2.5 years I've been waiting. They've said 2.5 years they're gonna put it on the budget. They'd have the money, they said that last year. Not gonna happen.
No.
No, so they're asking for another lawsuit. The first time someone comes into City Hall to attend a meeting of any type, whether it's when Paul Gazelka and Ron Kreshaw speak, or they come to a City Hall meeting, or they come to pay their water bill, and they can't go to the bathroom, they could legally sue,
Yeah,
because they're not accommodated according to the law.
right.
And whether or not they have to do it because they haven't had a remodel, I mean, come on, folks. Are we a decent city or not?
Yeah, where are our priorities?
We have mostly seniors living in this area.
Yeah,
If you can't go to the senior center and not go to the bathroom, you know, they have disability friendly bathrooms there. Our library has them. Why not at City Hall?
yeah.
They're not doing it because I asked. That's pretty obvious, and that's also pretty sick.
It really is.
It's outrageous.
I agree.
10/7/13, Theresa and I were on the work session agenda only after I made a request to be on the council agenda for Green Step Cities discussion. They ran out of time on purpose so they wouldn't have to hear our Green Step Cities idea. Clinker announced at the end of the work session that we had 3 minutes to present our ideas. I stated that that was not adequate time and please put us on the agenda at the next meeting, 10/21/13. I asked Kathy after the meeting to allow us 10 to 15 minutes next meeting to present our issue. We are the only ones that went to the Detroit Lakes Green Step Cities Conference to talk about complete streets and road diet. We're ahead of our time
I
all
know.
along the way.
I know, we were interested to learn
We
how.
beat them to the punch on good ideas all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the part they don't like. Theresa and I haven't got ever paid a dime for doing all of our activism or going to these meetings. City Council's getting paid to do that. Why aren't they using some of their $750 or $850 per month that they're being given of your taxpayer dollars to do the job that we've been doing? Why aren't they doing that? They don't go, as a matter of fact, to most of the League of Minnesota Cities meetings where they could get all kinds of beneficial information. Answer? Because they're lazy. And you heard it from this mouth. 10/4/13, meeting, Dan Vogt writes an email on 10/31 saying that Theresa and I will not be allowed to be on the agenda with our request to inform council about our attendance at Detroit Lakes Green Step Cities Conference on 10/24. We requested to give a report on complete streets and road diet. And that was like 3 years ahead of right now when the Live Better, Live Longers, they're getting to put their stuff on the agenda on a regular basis. We requested to give a report on, I read that, sorry. We also stated we had pamphlets to pass out to council members, and I also video recorded, so I wanted to show them the video at some point, at least snippets of it. No city council staff or council attended that conference in Detroit Lakes, even though the announcement was in the council packet of 10/21/13. Why would they have it in their council packet if none of them were going to go? The email said they had too much to catch up with and new items had to be discussed. 2/18/14 at work session, Frank Gushik suggests modifying public forum comments to be related to city business. They want to limit the time to 3 minutes instead of 5 and suggest City Attorney Tony Wetzel look at the language. 2/4/14, I send a letter to Dan Vogt and council to be on the council agenda 3/13/14 to present a Little Falls homeless bill of rights. 3/3/14 at work session, council agrees on language to request public forum comments to be related to city business. Placed on council agenda for next meeting 3/17/14. We're coming to the end here, folks. 3/17/14, council limits public forum to 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes and requests speakers to limit their comments to city-related business issues. 5/5/14, at work session, Lauren Boyum suggests eliminating public forum completely. Says he will research and find remedy to deal with this issue, meaning me.
Yeah.
I'm always the issue. 5/19/14, at work session, Boyum presents his ideas to eliminate public forum comments, and after discussion, he says, put it on the agenda, the next agenda, and vote it up or down. 6/2/14, at council meeting, public forum gets 6-2 vote in favor of keeping public forum as it is. Lauren Boyum and Leanne Doucette, the only two Ward 1 representatives, my ward, vote against it. All others vote to keep it as it is. And that included Hanfler, Goshik, Crowder, Klinker, Zilka, and Van Risingham. 6/16/14, my public forum, I asked that because I was issued a warning letter about my yard art and took it all down, that was the clowns, City of Clowns,
Yeah.
that all their symbols in the yard be removed. Also, if the council was unwilling to reconsider the language of the current ordinance. That's the public comment where I said, you know, fair is fair. If I have to take my yard down, everybody's gonna take their Madonna down.
Yeah, and the Christmas,
Christmas trappings and all of that.
yeah, the whole business. So that's where that started.
Right. So that's through 14, and the main thing that I wanted to point out in there is, that I hadn't talked about before, is why did the city remove those tables and chairs? It was obvious they knew that we were gonna do something, like move forward
Mm-hmm.
on June 7th.
Yep.
And we're out of time, so we won't get to talk about our faith stuff today. That's for another day. But I am wanting to talk about my faith, what began it, and some of my faith journey, and why I have the faith that I do, and how it relates to my peace activism and my advocation for Muslims and other people who are different, and everything I stand for and what I do. And that should be an interesting discussion. And maybe we'll title it Sanctuary.
One of Robin's very favorite words, and it's a great word. Well, thank you so much, folks, for joining us once again. This has been so good to just hear the rundown of how all of these things leading up to your soon-to-be held Supreme Court session happened.
Well, it's important for people to know the background, because it's only you and I that have been on this journey.
Right.
And they can't see with our eyes, they can't hear what we've heard, and they can't experience what we've experienced. But going forward, folks, I want to invite you, we should have, that chamber should be packed every time. If you care about the direction of your city, and you care that your city councilmen are going by the Constitution and the laws that they're enacting, you need to be there.
Yeah.
My voice and Theresa's voice and the things that we've stood up for would be multiplied and be much stronger if we had other people saying, you know, this isn't right. This is just not decent. Mm-hmm. This is not what we're paying for. We're paying everybody that's at City Hall, whether they're an elected official or city staff, to do their jobs. We expect them to do it. And frankly, they haven't been. Not fairly.
And they've been paid very well.
Yes, they are. If you do the math, council people get about $850, I think it is, per month, and they are expected only to come to 2 meetings, 2 work sessions and 2 council meetings, and that totals anywhere from, well, a work session is usually about an hour, and a council meeting is usually about an hour and a half. So say, let's say 5 hours or 10 hours per month.
Yeah.
That's close to $200 an hour. That's more than our city attorney is paid. Our city attorney's paid $140 an hour. And so when they're not going by our Constitution, and they're not following their own laws, or enacting laws that aren't fair or enforcing them fairly, we have a problem, Houston.
Yes, we do. And we're going to have to leave that problem on the table. Because
For
we're
next time.
completely out of time. For next time.
Maybe I'll have an update as to the Supreme Court and where that's at the next point when we
Oh
have
yeah, we want to hear
discussion.
every step of the process. So thank you
Thanks
so
for
much for
watching.
joining us, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Adios.
Bye-bye.